While Mark Carney is in China, Trump tells us he doesn't need what Canada produces. Seems like our prime minister would rather deal with an actual dictator than our biggest customer. And tonight, we'll tell you why. My name is Nico Hagen, and I'm too conservative for the conservatives. My co-host, Rob Ambrose, not woke enough for the liberals. We are the political orphans. Now, before we get into it, there's a couple of subjects that we absolutely need to speak about, because we will do a deep dive on why Mark Carney is actually in China. And yes, I have a conspiracy theory for you guys. I will connect everything tightly to Brookfield. Obviously, that's where we're going. But before we do that, there's a couple of stories. Well, 3 stories. Actually, almost feel good stories. It's weird to be talking about this. Stories that are actually good news. So let's start with the first one. I don't know if you heard about this, but there is a woman near Calgary that killed someone in self-defense.
Good news. Nice. Okay, cool.
And it's in self-defense. And the reason it's good news, it's because she's not going to be prosecuted for what happened. The police of Calgary is already saying, like, no charge, she's good to go. But not only is it good news, I wanted to talk about it because I need to bring up the facts that mainstream media is not talking about, who that man actually was. So Here is a quick story from CTV News that will describe it. Then I want to play what the police of Calgary said, and then I'll let you know what mainstream media is not telling you. So here is CTV News.
We have more new details tonight in a developing story we first brought you last week. Calgary police say a woman who killed a man in the northwest community of Edgemont Friday afternoon will not be charged because she was acting in self-defense. Investigators say she was lured to the home by a man saying he wanted to view a rental property. Alicia Fieldberg joins us now. And Alicia, police say had that woman not followed her instincts and fought back, things likely would have been even worse.
Police are calling this a brazen and traumatizing attack, not just for the woman, but the entire community. Moments after it happened, the woman ran to a neighbor's home for help.
I opened the door. She was covered in blood, had a knife in her hand, and was yelling and screaming. I feel awful, but
Again with this shit, that is so freaking annoying. I'll just download the damn video again. That is so annoying.
I also feel very proud of this young lady for defending her dad, defending herself, and unfortunately, she'll be traumatized forever, right?
Alex Hansen says she's known the woman since she was a baby because her family used to live in the home they now use as a short-term rental unit. Now, it's a quiet neighborhood, but police filled the area just after 4 Friday afternoon. The woman in her 30s was meeting a man in his 40s to show him the rental property for a second time. They were in the basement of a home.
That's driving me nuts.
So you get the Edgemont Court. Her father was there too, but police say he was in another part of the room when the man attacked the woman unprovoked. She fought back, then ran to the neighbor who called 911. The man was declared dead at the scene. The victim was taken to hospital in stable condition. Now her family says that she was badly beaten. Police say the killing is a non-culpable homicide, meaning the woman did not act with criminal intent or negligence.
I can say that in my experience.
So I'm going to leave it at that.
She was a realtor?
That is the information. They are not. You'll see that I'm going to share I'm cutting it off because they're just showing a small portion of the Calgary police speaking about this, which was the man you were just seeing. I want to show basically the whole 2-3 minutes that he talks about it. He explains it, but they're kind of keeping her name under wrap. They're kind of not giving too much detail because of the type of incident that it which I can understand. I can absolutely understand as to why they're trying to keep that secret. If my wife was raped or attacked and she had to kill someone, I'd rather her name not be everywhere too. So I get it. I fully understand. But the part that's interesting is you get an idea. So she was showing a rental property. She was in the basement. It was the second time that she was showing it to the man, and he attacked her. Obviously tried to rape her. She kills him in self-defense, runs to the neighbor covered in blood. And the police had very interesting, because we've seen a lot of self-defense cases recently in Canada. We all know that it doesn't go well for the people defending themselves. Canada does not like you when you defend yourself, but it seems that if you're a woman, it's a bit of a different story, which I'm not trying to say that's because it's a woman, but it seems like all the cases you normally hear are involving men defending their house against an intruder. But in this case, it seems pretty clear cut. But here is
investigation.
What police had to
Police
say.
believe that the man had lured the woman to the residence under a false pretense of a property showing. While in the residence, the man attacked the woman without provocation. An altercation ensued, which resulted in the death of the man. The woman was able to escape the residence and get the attention of neighbors who called 911. The man and the woman were not in a domestic relationship. The autopsy was conducted today, which identified the man as 48-year-old Shabazz Ahmed. As investigators have determined that the woman was acting in self-defense, Ahmed's death has been deemed not a non-culpable homicide, and no charges will be laid in the incidents. An incident of this nature is extremely rare and deeply unsettling for the victim, her family, and all Calgarians. The victim's actions undoubtedly saved her life, and our thoughts are with her as she continues to recover. To protect the privacy of the victim, no further details will be released. I can say that in my experience in the homicide unit, this is easily the most clear-cut case of self-defense that I have ever been involved in.
So there you have it.
I mean,
they're not gonna lay any charges. It seems pretty clear cut. But before we talk about it, I want to bring that up because there's mainstream media is not talking about that fact. He spoke about his name, Shabazz Ahmed. But let me give you a bit more information as to what mainstream media is not telling you and who that guy actually was. It's reported that Shabazz Ahmed was known to police. He was previously acquitted of various assault and weapon charges. He's allegedly a Pakistani national in Canada on a work permit. Go.
Yeah. I mean, it's very convenient they leave those parts out.
Of course they do.
And it's, you know what, people are just sick of this shit. Like, just report the news. You can't be worried about, you know, protecting a narrative or not starting a narrative. Just protect the news. Let people make up their own minds. I'm not saying you need to take this and make the fact that he's an immigrant or here on a work visa like the main story, but don't hide it either. You have to report the facts as on the ground. And if people start to think a certain way about things or develop their own narrative based on the pattern recognition, if they start to notice that, oh yeah, certain types of criminals tend to have things in common, I mean, that's just nothing you can do about that. That's just that's reality, bro. Like, that's just how life works. But not only that,
but there's questions to be asked as to, because we keep on seeing those type of cases where there's another one right now. There's an immigrant that was found with 3 women in his apartment. He had been abusing them sexually for 3 days. He is clearly not Canadian, and he's on bail. He's out on bail right now. Like, what the fuck? Yes, I just saw the news just before I jumped on the show. So it's just to say that there's a pattern. It is not racist to recognize that pattern, and it is part of our immigration problem. I think that everybody or anybody with some type of common sense has to agree that if you are in this country and you're not a Canadian and you commit a crime, we're not talking a speeding ticket here. We're talking a violent crime. You're selling drugs. You're doing stuff that is problematic. Bye-bye. We do not protect those type of people. We do not make it easier for them to stay in Canada. Those are not the types of immigrants that we want. And anybody with some type of common sense will agree that we need to deport these people. Those are criminals. Get the fuck out of here. We don't need you. It's pretty simple, but they don't talk about that. They don't mention, and I said report because nobody else is reporting what I'm talking about, as in the mainstream media is not reporting this. But those are the facts that I found. So I'm saying that it's reported and it's alleged to kind of protect the show by saying that I don't have the proof that this is real, but that's what people are saying. That's what other independent source of media are bringing. And even AI like Gemini and Grok are saying the same thing. So the information is out there that he was not Canadian and he had been in trouble before, that the police officers knew that guy. They knew who he was. So we need to talk about this. We need to talk about where they come from. Do those values align with ours? Like that always goes back to the same conversation, but it matters to have that conversation. First, good for her for doing what was needed to survive. Good for the police in Calgary to say that it was self-defense, but shame on mainstream media for lying, because it is lying. If you're not reporting all of the facts, you're lying. You're hiding the fact. That's lying. This matters. People need to know that those people are treated differently, and it cannot happen because it's time and time. Them and pedophiles seem to be treated very differently.
Well, this is in the backdrop of case after case of, you know, some immigrant or another getting a lighter sentence, and the judge even says you're getting a lighter sentence so that this doesn't affect your immigration status, which is absolute fucking garbage. You know, those are exactly the people who you want to affect their immigration status. You know, I think, you know, as you said, good job on the Calgary police for not charging over the crime. And I, you know, and that is good. I mean, baby steps here, but you know, they also said this is the most clear-cut case of justified homicide they've ever seen. So yeah, I mean, that's great. That's great that you don't charge someone in the most clear-cut case of self-defense that you've ever seen. But I'd like to have cases where even it's not the most clear-cut case you've ever seen, but it's still pretty clear self-defense. I like to see those people not be charged either.
We need a serious revamp of, we need castle doctrine in Canada. I've talked about this many times. If you're in my house uninvited, my family's there, I'm not thinking about the law. I'm not thinking about what's okay and what's not okay. I'm thinking my job is to protect my family by whatever means necessary. And this is what I'm going to do as a man. That's it. Plain and simple. I don't care about what the government's going to say afterwards, but that's not fair that I'm not allowed to defend my family by any means necessary because it might offend some purple hair woke idiot somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
If my family's life matters more than a criminal being on my property for whatever reason. If you're breaking into my house, I assume you have ill intent. For me, in my head, you're raping my child and my wife and you're murdering them afterwards. This is what, if I find you in my house, this is what I will assume. I will assume the worst. I'm not there to have a conversation with you and, hey, bro, did you need $10? Yeah, no. You're here uninvited. Worst case scenario, my family lives, you don't. It is what it is. I'll talk to God when I face him.
Well, yeah, it's why the standard of, you know, proportional force is ridiculous. If I'm the only thing standing in between my wife and kids and this dangerous felon who just broke into my home, I don't want fucking proportional force. I want fucking absolute overwhelming force on my side. You know, if he comes in with a knife, I want to use a gun. I don't want there to be any chance that he might overpower me and win. Right. I don't want there to be any chance whatsoever. So this idea of only proportional force is completely ridiculous and unrealistic and just it goes against every principle about, you know, self-defense and defense of your family that exists.
Agreed. You surrendered, in my opinion, you surrendered your life. Just like the girl we're talking about. the person that got shot, Nicole Good, that got shot by the ICE agent. You want to ram
Renee.
somebody with your car? Renee Nicole Good. Do I agree with it? Do I think it was maybe too much? Yes. Am I going to say that he was wrong? No, because it's her action that caused her death. You tried to ram someone intentionally or not. You ran into someone, and supposedly it came out today. I don't know if you saw that, but that guy had internal bleeding. He had to be hospitalized after this. So there's videos from the other side where you see clearly that he's getting hit. But the point is that you pass a certain point, your actions have consequences. And whatever those consequences are, that's on you. You looked for this. I'm allowed to defend my family. Plain and simple, no ifs or buts. I don't care. I don't care what the government says. I'm fucking protecting my family. Plain and simple.
100%.
So good for them for not charging her. And hopefully that sets a precedent that defense lawyers are going to be able to use in the near future to defend for other people. So, but good for her for doing what she had to do. Good for the Calgary police. And of course, mainstream media is not reporting it the way it should be reported. They left some very important part of the conversation. Now, second thing I wanted to talk about, I just wanted to show a quick clip about Iran, because you know that for the past 4 or 5 days, I think since the 11th, it's the 10th or 11th, the regime, the Iranian regime has cut internet services to the people. So there's not a lot of videos coming out, but I saw a new one today that I just wanted to show. So I have nothing else to say than to play a 30-second clip, but damn, that's a lot of people. So here's the new clip I found today. And that's a lot of people, bro. That's some scary. That's scary, man. You imagine you're in government, you're looking out your window, and that's what you see.
Oh, yeah, you know they're coming for you next. Yeah. Oops.
And supposedly, I just saw that as I was downloading the video. Supposedly that they closed the airspace in Iran.
Yeah, I heard that.
So it seems like they're really, really pushing it. So just thought I'd provide a small update.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's really hard to get a good sense of exactly what's going on because the media is still not really reporting on it. Then you see videos like that, and you're like, it's hard to imagine how the regime could withstand this. But you know, it's also, I think what Donald Trump does is going to be a potential wild card. So far, he's been pretty restrained. Normally, you know, the American president, whoever it is, whether it's a conservative or Democrat, would be bombing Iran by now. So, you know, it's pretty interesting to see which way it's going to go. I think it still favors the "this time is different" scenario, and that the regime eventually topples. But at some point, it's got to actually topple. You know, these things run out of steam. They require momentum. And if they just keep doing this for so long without actually toppling it, then the regime will get the upper hand again.
Yeah, and people will remember what happened last time. Like the last reports, we were talking about this yesterday. Last reports are some organizations are saying 12,000 people have been killed over the past few weeks. So this will definitely leave if the regime is successful at toppling the protest, like at stumping them, that is going to be a hard fight for the next ones because they're going to remember that 12,000 people. If that's true, that's a lot of people. That's a lot. But at the same time, you know, you said, but you said something pretty smart the other day, which was very surprising. When you said that, you know, there's always a point. There's a point of no return. Like when you need to get to that point, then the movement is just too big to stop. And videos like this, a video like this, that is scary, man. Like, can you imagine being working, not even the government itself, just working for the government, and you're seeing that? You're like, yeah,
And you're like,
no,
might have bet on the wrong horse here.
Yeah,
and the thing is cops see that, the security forces see that, military sees that, and they're the ones that enforce this stuff. But if they start to believe that the regime's days are numbered, then they're gonna change sides real fast. And once that happens, it's all over.
I don't know if you remember this, but it was sometime in 2025 last year where in Venezuela, Maduro was stamping down after the election. Like, because obviously everybody knows that he cheated in the last election, but then there were protests in the street and police started showing up. And then there's videos that became viral where police officers were gathering and taking their uniforms off, saying, nope, can't work. And funny enough, now Maduro's not in power anymore. So it's exactly what you're talking about, right? There's a turning point where when the people that are defending the president or the dictator are saying no more, we're done.
Yes.
Like, the movement is done. And
because they're always outnumbered by a large margin.
Oh yes.
They require the military and the men with guns to keep their order.
Well, that's one of the main reasons why Iran is reporting to have been using outside forces in order to try to control the unrest, because you don't have a choice, man. There's a lot of people. I love the movie Red Dawn. You saw Red Dawn, right? And that's what they do. Like, they show you what happens on American soil when you have
Patrick Swayze.
Both of them. I even like the new one too. But all to say that it's very easy for an outside force to take over a country that is not theirs. Like, Red Dawn's the perfect example, having people on the ground in the US. It's not something you've ever seen really since their War of Independence, but this is very easy. But you don't use Americans to take over Americans. It doesn't work. People are just, at one point, the police, the army is going to say, no, that is not why I signed up. And I think that's what's going to happen in Iran.
We can't shoot these people. And the reports already coming in of like foreign mercenaries that don't really speak Farsi. They speak Arabic, and they're clearly foreigners.
So before we get to the next one, because I have another good news.
Okay.
I'm going to take Janie is saying, agreed, Nico. So probably about protecting your family. You steer the soul. You are lots of business. Oh, there are a lot of business that don't not call law enforcement. Yeah, I agree. Man. No, that's not why. Because they want to be left alone. They don't call law enforcement because they can handle it themselves. Man, I lived in the woods for years.
They don't call law enforcement because they're afraid that they'll shoot the criminals. Because there are people that do that, that won't do that. They won't call law enforcement. They'll call it racist if you call the cops.
I'm taking it as the other way around. Like, where I used to live in the woods, like I owned a house for 5-6 years. I lived there full time for almost 3. And one of my neighbors, we had a lot of land around there. It was crown land all around. It was hunting grounds around there. Nobody's there. And there's a lot of land to hide people. And there's one of my neighbors had a big crane. Like, he redid his whole house, so he dug, but he just bought the crane and did it. So it wouldn't have been hard to hide a body down there. Like, they're not calling the cops around where I used to live. Everybody has guns. They're the type of places though, but we lived on a dead end, right? If you do not know the car, I would approach you. If you're on the dead end, because it's private, it's not part of the municipality, we own those roads. If you're there, we don't know the car, you will see people get out of their houses like, who the fuck are you? What the fuck are you doing here? Are you lost? Because, bro, you don't belong here. Bye-bye. Because a lot of the guys that lives in the woods are people that had really interesting lives and they ran away from something. That's not only why you live in the middle of nowhere.
They don't want people poking. They don't want people poking around.
No. And the guy that owned that crane was definitely not the type of guy you wanted to. There was a very good reason he was there. I know the reason, but he's a great neighbor to have. I always felt very safe when I wasn't around. If I was on business, I had to leave, and my
Yep.
then girlfriend was there alone. I was not worried. 2 German shepherds and that guy, no problem.
Yeah.
I was not worried.
Nice.
We need to take this one. Outside looking in 84 saying the political orphan sounds a lot like people discussing issues, trying to find truth. Interesting how money
Well,
controls how others view
that-
you. Well, bro, you're bang on.
That's what we are.
Bear.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So thank you for confirming what we're trying to do. So yes.
Yep, that's exactly what we did set out to do.
It'd be a perfect time for you to do a little sales pitch right there. I'm just saying. It's like perfect.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I
why
was trying
not,
to
right?
create, but can't expect too much from a liberal. Sorry.
Guys, if you are just tuning in for the first time, as Outside Looking In 84 is saying, this is a show where people from the left and the right are just common sense people trying to just get to the truth. If that sounds like something you want to be a part of, please consider becoming a member. You can do so through YouTube for the low price of $2.99 per month. You can also support the show by buying us a coffee in your upper right hand corner of your screen. And also just keep coming back. Throw out those comments. The show is heavily based on audience participation. So we will we'll get those comments. Agree with us, disagree with us. We want to hear them all. And we will get to those comments. Again, yeah, the most important thing is just stick around, keep coming back.
Perfect time for me to speak about our sponsor, Gabble, the world's first video debate app on the market. You can choose to sit back and watch others debate, or you can do like I do and debate others. I was there just today debating people on if Trump should invade Greenland, educating people on what the Monroe Doctrine is. So if you want to educate others, if you want to debate others politely, check out Gabble. You can find our affiliate link in the description below. That being said, I got another piece of good news. As you guys know, if you've been here before, I speak about free speech every single chance I get. I hate censorship. Free speech is the most important God-given right that we have. And as I said many times on this show, to me, a digital ID is the line in the sand that we cannot cross. That is something, again, I speak against almost every day. But I have good news just to kind of show that it is sometimes possible. It is always possible when the people get together to make the government back down. So there's a video that I saw today that is indicating that the UK government is scrapping their plans for mandatory digital ID to work by 2029. So it seems that it made such a big deal in the UK. The citizens pushed back, and the government is backing down on their plans. So let's just watch this short, good, feel-good video. I guess we could call it feel-good video.
Yes.
New free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
Turned out not to be as simple as that. You will be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID, because this policy will still come into effect. Digital ID will still be available, probably in 2029, but it will not be mandatory. Digital checks on your right to work will be mandatory, but the thing that is being checked digitally could be some other document, perhaps that you already have, for example, a passport. So for many people, that will feel quite a bit like the status quo. The argument being made in government this morning is that this sort of takes some of the heat out of the row. There was lots of criticism of the mandatory element of it. Some people in government saw some of that criticism as conspiracism. Well, this takes that out of it, but they still have what they believe will be a new measure which could transform how many people experience public services. A lot of criticism for the government from its political opponents this morning.
So there you have it. It seems that the mandatory part is being challenged or removed or calmed down for the moment. This
you can always
is
count
definitely
on government incompetence, right? You can always count on the government just shit in the bed. So sometimes it's
Yeah.
a good thing.
Well, that's a very, very small win. But the only reason I wanted to talk about is obviously we talk about censorship in the UK all the time. Digital ID goes hand to hand with censorship, and I just wanted to highlight the fact that when people push back, you can change things. Now, that doesn't mean that the mandatory part is being questioned or scrapped right now, but they're not scrapping the whole idea of digital ID. So this is just a tiny, small, feel-good win, but it is nothing in the war against digital IDs, though. Like, it's nothing. And like we highlighted yesterday, this is not just in the UK. Like in BC, they already have one. In Alberta, Smith introduced one. Yesterday, Wop Wop Canoe out of Manitoba introduced his. Quebec's working on theirs. Ontario's working on theirs. So this is something that's coming here. The health card will become digital, and that is the first digital ID that we're talking about, your health record. So it's coming here, and we definitely need to fight that stuff here too.
For sure. Take a few of these comments because there's a few coming in pretty good.
Absolutely. Let me take one before that is not serious. That's about you. You stirred the soul.
I'm just glad we're on. Yeah, it's hit or miss, brother. You never know, really.
Yeah.
There's a 50-50 chance. Too. Yeah, there's a 50-50 chance of pants around here. So, but yeah, today's the pants day.
So we appreciate that very much.
It's a good day. My 2 cents says, so much heat on Starmer right now. He's pulling at below 50. He had to back off for now. Yeah, I mean, that's, it's kind of what Nico was saying. Pressure does work, right? And there is value in I've said this before. I do think the one thing about the conspiracy theorists, sometimes they can get a little fatalistic, a little catastrophic, and just sort of suggest that everything's already baked in, and it sort of makes it feel like, oh, what's the point of even pushing back or fighting back? But stuff like this shows that regular citizens making their voice heard actually does. Well, now, is he doing it for the right reasons? No, probably not. But I guess you take your wins where you can get them. Speaking of Starmer, did you see this? Also from my 2 cents in Parliament, Starmer. I don't know if you saw this. In Parliament, Starmer just blocked incest marriage and cousin marriage in the UK, pending Muslims. That's insane, right? Like, it's just such a ridiculous but perfect example of how far this nonsense has gone. Pandering to the Islamic vote so bad that you're refusing to make it illegal to marry your fucking cousin. And that shows you they know that there's a problem here, and they know exactly where the problem is centered. Something like 45% of all Muslim marriages, or at least ones from Pakistani marriages in the UK and in Pakistan itself, are to cousins. Like, that's just part of the culture there. You just marry your cousin. That's a super common thing. And in a country where you've got you socialized healthcare or universal healthcare, that's a disaster because you get a lot of these kids are inbred as fuck, and they come out and they need lifelong care. And guess who's paying the bill? You, me, and Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer.
I saw a video in Parliament in the UK where there was I'm going to call him an MP. I'm pretty sure they're a member of Parliament, just like in Canada. But one of the member of Parliament was defending what Starmer did, as in blocking this, saying that it was part of UK culture. It's insane. Like, I'm just listening.
No, bro. That's like Muslim values or Canadian values. No,
that's basically what he's saying. Yeah, marrying your cousin are Canadian values. Yes,
that is retarded.
It was just a matter of time before that word was dropped.
Yeah, exactly right.
I was just expecting, when is he gonna say it? When?
Yeah. As Trevor said, just the fact that first cousin marriage is being spoken about is insane. Yeah, I mean, it's been a taboo in the West for a very long time. And in other cultures, it's not a taboo. It's just a common thing. 45, like basically half of all marriages are between first cousins. That's a serious fucking problem, and it also explains some things too.
Well, yeah, I should have kept that video because I spoke about it before. But the guy that's always on the whatever podcast, the kind of, he's such a dick. Like he's one of the whole. He's not a host, but he's always like friends of the show. And he was debating a Muslim, and that's basically, he was explaining how the reasons Muslims like the West is because you guys marry so much of your cousins and you're so inbred, your IQ is so low that you haven't created anything. You guys still are using horses to pull your buggies when we have cars and airplanes here. You guys haven't invented anything because you're too fucking stupid and inbred. But the guy's just dropping the way that guy's a dick. The way he says it is so
Sure.
You listen to him and you're like, bro, but then he drops the stats that are actually right. So you're like, I don't want to agree with him, but he's actually factually
you can't
correct.
you can't argue with the stats. And yeah, I mean, probably not the way I would say it, but where
no, but he
where's
knows
the
how to
lie?
get attention.
Yeah,
Obviously he knows how to get attention.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Andrew Wilson is Trevor Benson says.
Yes. Yep. That's the guy.
yeah,
And I think
that's his
Trevor
name.
corrected me last time because I couldn't remember, but it is him. Wildflower 1957 or Wild 1957 Flower saying, I agree. This is but a small victory in total surveillance. I always think I talk about this stuff every day, and Rob, you're so right that it gets very heavy to speak about this. I'm always considered a conspiracy theorist. It's always very negative the way we approach it because it is very negative. So that's why I made sure to speak about this today, and the same thing for the kind of feel-good story about the woman that defended herself, because to me, those are good news that I'm going to do my best to start bringing more of those to the show, like to at least try to find a good news every day to kind of show that there's still good out there. There's still good things.
Yeah,
that happens,
I think
all
even if you're talking,
all I was going to say is there's a great picture of a bunch of elites playing chess, and the chessboard is held by a bunch of people on their knees, like they're on all fours and they're holding the board. And basically the caption is, all you have to do is stand up. And the video I showed from Iran is the perfect example. That type of shit is, I don't care who you are, that shit is scary. If those people are coming after you, this is scary. Where was it? There was an Asian country not too long ago that they literally went into the palace and start shooting people because they were censoring them. They were trying to censor the internet. They were trying to pass bills. This is super recently. It's like within the last month and a half. I can't remember where it was. I know one of our listeners is gonna have a good memory and remember, but that literally just happened. Like the people started killing, the citizens started killing people from the government, as in, yep, nope, you're not doing that to us. So I'm not saying that this is what we should do. I'm just saying that it does happen. And you don't want to be on the other end of Iran right now. I would not want to be part of that government right now. I can tell you that much.
No, definitely not. And yeah, I mean, I think it's even if you're talking about things that are true, if you only just talk about the negative, I think it can kind of send you down a spiral. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to bring up the wins whenever you can, however small they might be.
However small they might appear. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
But it just reminds you that if people stand up, I don't know who said this, but the quote that the people should never be scared of the government should be scared of its people. I always have that in my mind, because if that's what you want, we're a lot more than them. And what was it? It was a few percent tax in the US on tea made them start a revolution. Just saying.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's often just a little a spark, right? Remember the Arab Spring from a few years back? It was some street vendor in Tunisia who government took his the local cops. He couldn't pay the bribe to the local cops, so they took his street car, and that was basically how he fed his family. And he just had enough. He lit himself on fire And that started the entire Arab Spring all across Arab countries. They rose up and said enough of this shit. Now, obviously, it didn't pan out because the Arab governments were able to push back with extreme force and kill enough of them that they eventually did kind of go back and allow themselves to be oppressed again. But the point is it's often just one tiny spark somewhere that starts a huge thing.
And Trevor, in my opinion, is bang on, saying the whole British Commonwealth is a tinderbox right now. And I agree. It's going to come from either the UK, Australia, Canada. There's one thing, there's just one spark that needs to happen, and we're all going to merge together, because at the end of the day, we're fighting the same people. We're all under the crown, and it's not surprising, or it's not a conspiracy to see how much it's changed over something as short as the past 4 or 5 years, and it's all in the West that it's happening. So,
yep, absolutely. You see the numbers of people getting arrested in the UK for free speech issues, for just making tweets that the government doesn't like. I mean, that alone has got to create a huge amount of rage that's gonna come back on the government for sure.
13,000 a year, 2023, 2024, there were 13,000 a year. Let's see about last year. We don't have the numbers yet, but before we change the subject to the main subject of the day, I wanted to take this one. Church of Hertz is saying, I'm glad y'all, I love y'all. The expression y'all is awesome. I'm glad y'all don't use sound effects to try to trick the algorithm, as if I can't figure that out. The only sound effect we use here is Rob farting on camera. And yes, we heard you. That's why I took. You farted 5 minutes ago. We fucking heard you, bro. If you thought you were being slick,
that was the sound
effect.
That was
the chair. That was the chair. I swear it was the chair.
I swear it was the chair.
I swear it was the chair. So
you guys
I wasn't going to say anything until I saw that comment. And
that comment, yeah.
That comment was great.
Yeah. That's all I'm doing. I'm trying to trick the algorithm.
Let's get into the main topic of the day, being Carney arriving in China. So I did a lot of digging today, and I wanted to try to figure out why Carney was there. Why was he really there? Because we get a small portion from the media, but it's up to us to kind of connect the dot. And I have a massive conspiracy coming from Brookfield. And the numbers I found today, and I confirmed them by multiple places, are insane. We're talking trillions of dollars, a number that we cannot even comprehend. And I'll let you know in a few minutes what it's all about. But here is the photo op for Mark Carney arriving in China. You know you're short when you're as short as Chinese people. So obviously this is Mark Carney arriving in China. The reason that he's telling us that he's in China is this reason right here. Let's use one of his own posts as to why he's in China. Here's Mark Carney telling us that I'm heading to Beijing. China is our second largest trading partner and the world's second largest economy. A pragmatic and constructive relationship between our nations will create greater stability, security, and prosperity on both sides of the Pacific. So that is the reason why he is in China right now. But let's break those down. What he just said there, that China is our second largest customer. Do you know what the numbers are? Do you know what the numbers are?
No, but I'm sure it's not even, it's a very distant second.
Show me, just throw a number out there. How much of our exports does China buy?
If 70% is America, I don't know, probably 10% be China, maybe 15.
Somewhere between 4 and 5%. And just to correct you, it's not 70% that goes to the US, but somewhere like 76%. So arguably, it's somewhere between 4 to 5. This is our second largest. That just shows you how big of a customer the US is to us.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you
China
saw
cannot
this.
replace America.
No. And you saying that you're trying to deal with a dictator, because China is under a communist dictatorship. So I love how Canadians are calling Trump a dictator and agreeing that we need to do more business with China, which is under an actual dictatorship. The irony here is absolutely hilarious. But I don't know if you saw that, but did you see what Trump said about Canadian products yesterday? I wanted to talk about it, but good thing we didn't. But here's what Trump said about Canada yesterday.
I mean, you know, I want to see Canada and Mexico do well, but the problem is we don't need their product. You know, we don't need cars made in Canada. We don't need cars made in Mexico. We want to make them here. And that's what's happening. Everybody's moving here. From Canada, they're coming here. From Mexico, from Japan, from Germany, from all over the world, they're coming here. They're opening up their plants. Bill is lucky because he's had a lot here, but when he doesn't have it here, he's moving here. They're doing big expansions for it. But they're all doing great. The car industry is exciting, and to be honest with you, Bill, every industry is exciting. Yeah, just like this.
So basically, Trump saying that the U.S. does not need what Canada produces. And instead of dealing with that and addressing that, because it's been radio silence, Carney has not addressed that comment at all, did not say anything about it. Instead, he just went to China to try to further our relationship with a dictator communist state that barely buys 4% of our exports, while 76% is going to the US. And I want to remind people that the free trade agreement, the CUSMA or the USMCA, is worth $950 billion to $1 billion. $950 billion a year to $1 trillion a year in products and services between Canada and the US. And our PM would rather go deal with China than to actually address that. And I agree, there's a comment that the only reason Carney's doing that's to piss off Trump even more. And it's not hard for me to believe. What did he do with what did he do with Palestine when Trump is basically backing Israel? Carney goes out and say, we recognize Palestine as a state. When Trump is talking about Greenland, he goes to Greenland and say, we will help protect you. Like, he seems he's doing absolutely everything possible to piss the U.S. off. And, you know, if you look at what's going on right now, so he wants to renew, because there's no prime minister that's been to China since 2017. So in almost 10 years, there hasn't been a prime minister in China. So he'll be the first one to go in almost 10 years. And the rumors are, and I've talked about this before, the rumors are that he's going to go to China. He's there in China to try to have the canola tariffs that China put on us last year, like 100% tariffs. And a lot of people like me are believing that the only real hand that he has is the 100% tariffs that we have on their EV cars. So he's going to play that game. But before, because there was somebody on my Instagram earlier saying that, oh, that's a good deal. And to confirm this, the premier of Saskatchewan, Scott Moe, is with Carney in China right now. So clearly they're going to address the canola issue. But just so you guys know, in 2024, our canola export was worth about $14.5 billion worldwide. China buys about $5 billion of it, so somewhere around 40% of our exports when it comes to canola goes to China. The U.S. buys about $8 billion a year, about 53%. So even in canola, the U.S. is our biggest customer, yet we're trying to go to China for something that might be worth about $5 billion a year. And why does that matter is because remember the 2035 EV mandates that Carney put in place, right? That by 2035 in Canada, 100% of all new lightweight vehicle will have to be EV. It will need to be battery operated. Yet, all of the biggest manufacturers in Canada, when that mandate came to be, wrote to Carney and said, what are you talking about? We are not able to handle this over the next 10 years. So how are we supposed to make it happen? Well, easy. Open your market to China. China has probably the best EV cars. I don't know if you saw that. If you saw the cars that China sells, and they're not that expensive. They're cheaper than what we can produce here. But it's estimated right now that the EV market in Canada, because of the 2035 mandate, is valued between $50 to $100 billion a year. This is what it will be by 2035. So you're looking at trying to get $5 billion back compared to opening our market that could be $50 to $100 billion worth, and you would decimate our car manufacturing in Canada. Even Doug Ford, Doughboy Ford, is complaining about this because it will decimate Ontario, because this is massive. $50 to $100 billion in Canada. That is absolutely massive. But one of the things that we need to understand is, why would Carney do that? Because remember, he was the UN Special Envoy for Climate Change. He's always been pushing the green agenda ever since he's been prime minister. His book Values is all about how we need to put a price on the green initiative. Almost every single economic decision that a country makes should consider the green agenda. That's basically what his book is saying. But here's where it gets very fucking interesting, because why would he do this if there wasn't money for Brookfield? Because everything he does seems to be to make more money for Brookfield. But I found a connection for you guys. So Mark Carney, in 2024, 2025, was the head of the transition investing at Brookfield. It's called the Global Transition Fund. He personally launched it and overseed it and raised over $28 billion as per 2025. The fund is specifically designated to invest in exactly what the 2035 mandates requires. What does it require? Massive battery storage. Because if you're going to have EVs, because that's the biggest problem with EV, anything that's solar or that's wind, you need batteries to store that energy when, let's say, the sun is not out, there's no wind. Turns out that Brookfield owns a company called Neon. They bought it for $6.1 billion back in 2024, and they specialize in what they call BESS, massive battery storage. They also develop pipelines. They recently acquired Banks Renewable and are developing gigawatts of storage around the UK and Australia. In North America, they are the primary player in the utility scale battery market. The giant batteries needed to stabilize the grid once you force everyone to plug your EV at 6 p.m. I was in Texas a few years back, and there was the grid could not. There was a snowstorm in Texas, and the grid
the whole
fell.
thing just shut down.
Yeah. And one of the problems is that they have no backup power. They're not used to that stuff. They're not prepared for that. So what that massive battery storage does is they will produce massive batteries that can be installed to a city or a state grid that will keep energy on the side. So when the energy is available, it will keep the battery full. In case something happens to the main feed, at least you can run off those massive batteries. So they have the fund that they've been investing over $28 billion in. They have the technology when it comes to massive battery storage. They also, this is the part that's very interesting too. They specialize in EV charging infrastructure. Brookfield has multiple arms reaching into the charging market. They bought a company called Shoal Technology Partnership in 2023 that specializes in what we call charging as a service. So they will finance and deploy EV charging station for multifamily, retail, fleets, anywhere that you need a charging station to charge EV cars. That's what Shoal Technology does, and they provide the equipment. They also, Brookfield owns a lot of properties where those charging stations could be installed on. For example, in California right now, they have more than 34 stations through a company called EV Passport Partnership. So they use their technology through Shoal. They use their properties in order to install it. And just as a little number, actually, they also are part of a partnership and investment company called Lumi, also specializes in EV charging infrastructure. One of the things that blew my mind is the next part. How much do you think, I've never heard of that term before, but it's called energy transition market. So everything that is related from going from, let's say, coal, going from gas, going from nuclear, let's say, transitioning market to green energy. Give me a number of how much do you think that market just in Canada could be worth over the next 24 years? Because remember, the WEF net zero agenda is 2050. So all the calculations that are coming out there, and you're talking calculation from Bloomberg. You're not talking from guys like me that just does his own research. You're talking about massive financial firms that are talking about this. How much do you think in Canada alone, after I'll give you the worldwide cost for, or what it's worth worldwide, but how much do you think the energy transition market is cost? So transitioning from what we have to green energy over the next 25,
that's
24 years.
Trillion. Worldwide is trillions for sure.
Canada,
Canada's trillion.
Just Canada is $2 trillion.
Wow.
That's the investment that will be required from Canada in order to meet the net zero agenda, the WEF 2050
Well,
net
that
zero
explains
agenda.
a lot, doesn't it?
And before you call me a conspiracy theory, don't forget that Carney on the 17th is headed to the WEF conference in Davos, Switzerland. That is not a conspiracy. That is part of his traveling plans that you can find on the government's website. So $2 trillion per month over the next 25 years, $2 trillion is worth $7 billion a month, over $80 billion a year.
Jesus.
And worldwide, how much?
So I mean, that explains.
But let me just ask you, how much do you think it's worth at a minimum? Because I've seen the number I'm going to give you.
Well,
I've
if
seen
it's $2 trillion,
from
if it's
Bloomberg.
$2 trillion in Canada, you're looking at
how much
50
is it?
trillion? Like
not even close.
Jesus.
So
basically, this explains exactly
the low
why.
estimates. The low estimates of the worldwide energy transition market worldwide, $100 trillion. And I've seen estimates that were $350 trillion of investment.
This explains why all the rich people and the WEF are into it, right? Why they're pushing this so hard. They don't actually give a shit. They probably know it's not even real. Or because it doesn't matter. The beauty of this is you don't need climate change to be real to realize all that money, because the money is in the transition. Do you remember? I mean, you're certainly old enough to remember, and I think most of our audiences remember the Y2K bug.
Oh yeah, Jesus!
Yes. I mean, how many hundreds of billions were spent by companies, getting Y2K ready, and it was the giant fucking bust. There was nothing. Right?
Do you know why? Do you know why it was a problem? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
What's the problem with the Y2K?
Supposedly, it was the theory is that every single like infrastructure equipment that was run on electronics only used 2 digits for the year, right? So it used
it was
99 for 1999. And then when it went to 2000, what they said is everything would think it was 1900 and not 2000. And planes would fall out of the sky and banks would eliminate your money and everything. And it was literally the biggest fucking bust ever. It reminds me of that.
Well, except in this case, they're pushing it through policies. Like back in the Y2K, it was the companies that took it upon themselves, right? They're like, oh shit, we tried to save on code. We used 2 digits instead of 4. What's going to happen? Is it going to crash? Is it just going to reset to 00 and nothing happens? We all know that that's exactly what happened, but they had to update all that code. But that was a private thing. That was companies.
Yeah, now it's our money. Now
it's government pushing policies like the 2035 EV mandates to force a country that is Canada to move to selling every single new car, new light vehicle in Canada to be fully electric by 2035, when we know that our existing car manufacturing in Canada cannot handle it. It's less than 10% of our market. Canadians don't want it because they don't fucking work in Canada.
Yeah.
Literally, your battery is shut by half when it's cold, and when is it not cold in Canada? Like it's
we
fucking
get like
cold.
2 months, right? Yeah. and that's not even
pushing the policies. That's worldwide. And one of the things I wanted to say too before I forget is why. One of the reasons why Carney is going so much against Trump, in my opinion, is Trump is extremely vocal against the green agenda. He is very vocal that is like, fuck your green agenda. I'm not interested in this bullshit. Mark Carney's whole career was basically spent pushing the green agenda. And when you think about it, it's actually pretty clever, because if it is worth over $100 trillion over the next 25 years worldwide, have you ever heard of something more lucrative than that? Like, that's insane. Those are numbers we cannot comprehend.
Well, and you got to think of like where we are in history too. You know, there are no new worlds to conquer, at least not here on Earth. 500 years ago, the rich people, the people who made these decisions, they could look at the new world and be like, this is a completely, North America now. This is a completely unexplored world, ripe for the taking. It can be exploited, and we can make ourselves very rich. And most European countries did get very, very rich by exploiting, the natural resources of these untapped worlds. That doesn't exist anymore. There's no other way to make, trillions of dollars that hasn't already been exploited, unless you invent something that's something like this, right? And the beauty of it is that you don't have to be right. It doesn't have to be real for you to make all that money. All you have to do is make people afraid enough. And B, even if, let's say it's all just one giant scam, we're not going to know that for 30, 40 years, and they'll be long gone. The people making the money today will be dead. So they don't give a shit. They don't care if people 50 years from now realize it was all a fucking scam. There was a quick comment, from Claire.
But they've
Robitaille.
been pushing
Says,
that agenda.
The Y2K kept me awake.
But before you go, they've been pushing that agenda since Al Gore, since the 80s. Remember, 10 years after Al Gore started, we were supposed to be underwater.
Inconvenient
and those fuckers and those guys are still pushing. They're still buying land right on the water.
Which they would not be doing. Claire says, I remember the Claire Robitaille says, I remember the Y2K kept me awake for a few nights. And that's the point I was getting at is, of course, there's some differences, right? That was companies and stuff. But the point was, do you remember the fear in that moment? Because everyone felt it. People weren't flying on New Year's Eve, right? People were scared. A lot of people just stayed home because they didn't know what the fuck was going to happen. And that's the part that's the same, is that fear, that broad collective fear. And once you make people afraid, you can control them very, 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 very easy. You can convince them, hey, why don't we transfer $100 trillion to the richest 1%? Because, hey, you're scared. You don't want civilization to be destroyed, do you? You don't want coastal regions 50 kilometers into the coast to be all submerged underwater, do you? You don't want, 2 billion people displaced, do you? Right? All these like giant civilization ending scenarios. And once you convince people of that, yeah, $100 trillion, that's just the cost of doing business.
Yes, 100%. You're absolutely right.
But
it's every time I go down one of those rabbit holes, I find something that I'm just, what the fuck? 100 trillion. I was reading this. I'm like, hold on. I confirmed it everywhere, and those are lowball estimates. Some of the estimates are in the $350 trillion over the next 24 years. And talk about a gold rush. When I saw the T, I'm like, hold on, is that a mistake? Like T. Like, are you saying, because the first thing I saw was $100 T, and then it continued. I'm like, okay, hold on. Is the T trillion? And then I started looking at the sources. I'm just like, what the fuck? And 100 trillion is lowball. Bloomberg was saying something like $350 trillion plus, and that's over the next 24 years.
And once you're talking that kind of money, those kind of numbers, then all the conspiracy theories kind of sort of make a whole lot more sense, right? Because that's the kind of money. See, and I'm not even going to say this is what I believe, because I don't necessarily entirely. I'm not gone full conspiracy theorist. What I am saying is,
I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it.
It certainly makes a lot of sense if you can connect the dots. Like, one of the things that, okay, so let's just very quickly pick apart this conspiracy theorist. I can remember, one of the things the right wing would say for years was one of the arguments was, why would the scientists make up, why would they just come up with bad data that showed stuff that it wasn't actually there? And then of course the right would say, well, they're going to say, look at the funding. They're going to say whatever the funding, tells them to say. And then, of course, the answer to that would be like, well, why would someone pay them to lie about this? But then when you add numbers like $100 trillion, everything makes a whole lot more sense. Now you can understand why someone might fund some of this stuff for billions of dollars today, or even tens of billions of dollars today, as long as they get the results they want. Because it's really the scientists that are it's the science behind the stuff that is building the narrative, the fear that we have to do something, right? That we have to spend this kind of money. We have to spend $100 trillion. So when you think of that kind of money, it's not that much of a stretch to think that there might be some entities today who are going to spend billions of dollars in order to get the science on their side. And as we've seen with the trans stuff, I grew up with almost a religious faith in the scientific method, that scientists were incorruptible. They just went where the science led them. And then we see the trans stuff, and they weren't even getting paid money. That was just to be on the right side. That was just social pressure. And now you've got fucking whole ass biologists pretending that women can have penises and men can give birth, and that this is a reasonable thing. So when you see that shit, and these are the same people that are telling us, oh yeah, no, but the climate change thing is real. Like, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to start to get that alarm bells, ringing in the back of your head.
Just look at what happened during the pandemic. Perfect example. You don't need to look that far. Look just a few years ago, what happened, what they pushed. And now people are trying to forget, oh yeah, but that never happened. Like, yes, it happened, but we need to move forward. They know that they can get away with it. That's the worst part, is not only do people like me get called conspiracy theorists, we get banned everywhere, we lose our jobs, but people forget, and it's like, oh yeah, but it's okay, whatever. It's not like people got their bank account frozen or anything. Actually, yes, they
That's
did.
what happened.
Yes. I want to take this comment. I don't think I've ever seen a comment from Ray Davis, I5V. So welcome to the show.
Welcome, sir.
Exaggerated estimates. Maybe, but
yeah, I mean,
hold on. You can only trust the experts. The numbers I'm giving you is not me. There's at least 5 to 10 sources that I found earlier, like Bloomberg was saying more to the $350 trillion. But if you consider the amount of energy that we need to run the planet, you want to move that all over to the green agenda. Those are estimates to say that that's what the market could be worth. There's no way of knowing what the market is actually worth until you start migrating to it. That's where they still are right now. The market's not available yet. Well, that's why they're pushing it to 2050. They understand how long it's going to take to get there. But they're just look at what's going on in Canada. The MOU that the government signed with Daniel Smith out of Alberta is covered. It literally has the phrase of the net zero by 2050. It is in the MOU regarding oil and gas. It's absolutely insane, but it's being pushed. Carbon tax. What do you think carbon tax is? There's going to be a $130 a ton carbon tax in Alberta in order to fund the pathway project, the carbon capture pathway project, because they know that it doesn't make money. The only reason businesses are going to be able to make money is because the major part of the bill is going to be flipped by taxpayers. And this is the calculation. You can do them for yourself. All the information's in the MOU. They need the tax to pay for the carbon capture pathway project because it will not generate enough money. It's never been proven to be financially stable for a company to invest in those green energies. Why do you think they don't? Why do you think the government is always spending our money in order to subsidize those green agenda? Because it doesn't make money. Why the fuck would we use that shit when we can use oil and gas? We can use nuclear reactors instead. It makes no sense. It's all bullshit. It doesn't make money. So why is the government involved? Because there's a long game somewhere.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, and it's kind of like, you know, we've regularly discussed nuclear power, and to me, that's one of those things where, like, anyone who seriously is talking about lowering emissions and you know, says, oh, climate change is a real problem, we got to get emissions down, and is not full-throatedly endorsing nuclear, I'm extremely skeptical, because that is by far the best single solution we would have of getting CO2 emissions down. And the fact that none of the people who are really saying that we need to spend $100 trillion on getting to net zero are pushing for nuclear, that's a huge red flag to me.
Agreed.
And oh shit, fuck, we're 12 minutes over. These rabbit holes, man. I will second, let's see here who it is. Trevor Benson says, why are there only 25 likes? Help push the show, hit it. Yes, I will second what Trevor says. Guys, please remember to like and share the show. If you're out there listening,
spank that like button. Spank it.
Spank the like button. Because that helps us to it helps push the show, helps in the algorithm, helps push the show to get people who might not be aware of the show, and it comes across their feed. So definitely you can help us do that. You got anything else you want to add, or should we wrap it up?
No, you can pin her.
Let's pin her. We'll put a pin on her, folks. Remember, if you are just tuning in for the first time, please remember that you can support the show by becoming a member through YouTube for the low price of $2.99 per month. You can also buy us a coffee in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. You can also just keep coming back. Throw those comments in there. If you've been watching the whole show, you can see that most of the show is just us taking comments, having a conversation with you guys. We're not experts on anything. We're just, as someone said earlier in the show, just a couple people trying to figure out the truth. And we're not really teaching anyone anything. We're all kind of learning here together, and that's really what's great about this show. So please remember to come back. Throw some comments out there. Of course, we've got a ton of comments already from our regulars, a couple new faces. Great to see you guys. Hope you guys come back. And we always know there's a bunch of people, because we see the numbers. There's a bunch of people that are here, but don't necessarily comment. And don't be shy, guys. Throw those comments out there. That really helps. That's another way to help boost us in the algorithm, help push the show. Other than that, folks, have an excellent night for the rest of your evening. We will catch you tomorrow night, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern, as always. and we'll wrap up the week on a high note. I don't know.
Wow, that's terrible. Okay,
Peace. Bye.